Chapter 11. Adrianna returned to the courtyard where she had left her mare, only to find a man thoughtfully attending her, brushing down her shiny coat with a handful of straw, while whispering gently. "Thank you," she said, grateful for something finally going well today. The man turned, opening his mouth to reply. Adrianna recognized him at once, the dark, curling hair, the tanned complexion, the strong arms, and mostly the irritating smile. "You," they both blurted at each other. "Do you know how much trouble you caused me yesterday?" Adrianna asked. The man looked her up and down. "So you are a princess. Playing a game yesterday, were you? Is that why you were so annoyed when I called you princess?" "None of your damn business," she snapped back. "And I guess if you're here, you went to see Zephyra. You're after a dragon, aren't you? Like I said, none of your damn business." He considered her thoughtfully, tossing the straw on the floor and crossing his arms. "Let me guess. You're going to get your fairy godmother to obtain the information about the location of the egg, but have you really thought things all the way through?" "Things? What things?" Adrianna replied in spite of herself, not wanting to miss out on any useful information but hating that she had to ask him. "Once you've found the location of the egg, do you have someone who can help you secure it?" Adrianna hadn't thought about this at all. "Obviously." "You hesitated. You don't have anyone, do you? Well, in spite of my better judgment, because I'm so good-natured, I'm prepared to help you." "I don't need your help." "No? So you know how to handle a dragon egg without getting burned by it? You know how to move the dragon egg so that the mother follows you and doesn't kill you? How do you think it will happen? You think that you'll just pick up the egg, stick it in your bag, and peacefully return home while the mother gently follows you?" Flustered, Adrianna attempted and failed to come back with some sort of curt reply. Because he was right. She hadn't given any of this any thought, and more worryingly, she had no idea how to go about any of it. Why did it all have to be so hard? "It's as I said, you need my help," the man said with that irritatingly smug smile. It was just like the one Adrianna had so badly wanted to slap off his face the other day. "And why on earth would you help me?" Adrianna caught herself. That was the wrong line of thinking. "Anyway, I don't need your help. I have a fairy godmother. She can bring the egg back for me." "Are you quite sure about that?" "Of course I'm sure." Adrianna really didn't like the amused expression that now gleamed in the man's eyes. She pushed past him to get to her mare. "You're not used to fairy godmothers, but they can pretty much do anything that a princess needs." "Lucky you." Except he didn't sound like he meant it in the slightest. "Well, if you find that you need a bit more help than what your fairy godmother can provide, I'll be at the Prince's Arms tonight. Just ask for Sam." Adrianna scowled at him as she mounted her mare. "There's no need for that. I won't be coming to the Prince's Arms." "Suit yourself." "And will you want to untie your horse before you try leaving?" Adrianna felt herself go red with embarrassment. She had completely forgotten that her mare was tied up. Sam moved to her horse's head, gently untying the reins and passing them back to Adrianna. She noticed the way he touched the mare's cheek and whispered something to her, too low for Adrianna to hear. The mare's ears twitched, pointing towards him. "You're good with horses," she said grudgingly, taking the reins. "I'm good with all animals, including dragons." He turned and walked away before she could reply. Since the opening of the courtyard was narrow, too narrow for two, Adrianna had to wait and watch him leave. Going with him would mean following him out, and her pride wouldn't take that final sting. She had swallowed way too many toads of late. She'd go out by herself, head held high. Still, she was annoyed that it wasn't her leaving first, forcing him to watch her ride away. She shook her head. It really didn't matter. She needed to keep her focus and energy for the important thing. Securing a dragon first, and then securing herself a prince. Next stop, talking to Mirabelle. Unfortunately, Adrianna's day did not improve as she returned to the castle. Her brilliant plan of asking Mirabelle to take care of the dragon egg rapidly proved to not be so brilliant at all. The first hurdle was to locate her fairy godmother. Since she wasn't in her room, nor in Adrianna's room, and she wasn't in the kitchen sneaking a drink from the brandy bottle, there was only one place she could be. Adrianna headed out to the garden just in time to cross paths with a harried-looking Lowen. Petunia's voice was ringing out shrilly somewhere behind the rhododendrons, quoting a passage from some book, but she didn't seem to be aware that Lowen was rapidly moving out of hearing range. He wasn't looking back at her direction, though, but was wildly scanning the garden to his left, with the look of a hunted animal, fearing being pounced on by a predator. Adrianna would never understand what Mirabelle saw in the man. He was tall and lanky, all elbows and knees, and surprisingly pale, considering he worked outdoors. Sure, there was a wiry strength to him, his forearms corded with sinew and muscle, but it lacked grace, causing Lowen to move with jerky bird-like movements. His hair was a salt and pepper halo, his eyes wide, and he perpetually looked like he was strangling himself on his own saliva. "Yoo-hoo, Lowen," a voice called softly. Lowen quickly retreated behind a rosebush. "Mirabelle, there you are," Adrianna said loudly to capture her fairy godmother's attention and distract her from the gardener, since it would take a heart of stone not to take pity on such a terrified man. Mirabelle stepped out from beneath a wisteria-covered pergola. "Have you seen Lowen?" "I have made progress with our dragon situation," Adrianna interrupted. "Mirabelle!" Adrianna snapped her fingers a couple of times in front of the plump fairy to pull her away from thoughts of the gardener. "I need you to attend me. We have a dragon to secure, remember?" Yes, Mirabelle sighed, obviously disappointed to have to tear her attention away from Lowen and onto the situation at hand. "You spoke to Aurora?" Adrianna told Mirabelle of her errand with Aurora, moving as she did and forcing her fairy godmother to move as well to follow the conversation. She stopped when the fairy had her back to the rosebush behind which Lowen was cowering. Adrianna had expected him to make a hasty exit, maybe to even crawl away, but he seemed content to remain behind his rosebush. In fact, he even seemed to be spying on Mirabelle from between the leaves. Adrianna might have wondered what exactly he was playing at if she didn't already have so much on her mind. Petunia's voice droned on in the background, still quoting from her book, apparently unaware that Lowen was no longer at her side, but was instead gawking at Mirabelle from behind a bush. It wasn't until Adrianna explained her plan of getting Mirabelle to magically transport the dragon egg back to the castle that Mirabelle's attention finally snapped to her. "Are you quite mad, dear?" Mirabelle looked flabbergasted. "What? You want me to move a dragon egg?" "Yes," Adrianna replied. "A dragon egg, Adrianna, a dragon egg." "Yes. That's what we've been talking about this whole time. What's the big deal? You can move things around. You rearranged the entire orchard so that the prince would ride past it when he arrived on our grounds." "Yes, because it was an orchard." "If you're going to quote the obvious at me, I'm not magically going to understand what you mean, not unless you give me the ability to read your mind." Mirabelle gave an impatient huff, and Adrianna felt a twinge of regret for having spoken sharply. None of this was Mirabelle's fault after all, and the fairy was nothing if not a great help. Adrianna was being short with everyone at the moment. The stress of her situation was clearly getting to her. "An orchard has no more magic than a stone," Mirabelle explained. "No more than the soil beneath our feet. That is to say that it has some magic, same as every living thing. Although some living things have more magic than others." Mirabelle briefly cast a glance around her, searching for Lowen. Not seeing him, she pouted, disappointed, and continued. "So something like an orchard I can completely control with my magic. But dragons have their own magic. I am no more capable of moving a dragon egg than you are. In fact, I am less capable. Our magics cannot interact. I'm sorry, dear, I thought Aurora would have told you. In this, I am utterly useless to you. Locating the dragon I can do, but that's as far as my magic will go." Adrianna let forth a torrent of curses, all the more heated for the memory of how smug Sam had looked. He must have known. He must have known that Mirabelle wouldn't be able to move the dragon egg. "Bastard!" Adrianna said through gritted teeth, because now she was left with only one course of action. Go to the prince's arms, where she had no doubt that he would be expecting her. Smugly.